There's a terrible tragedy in New York City as it relates to police violence. And I don't have time to go through the entire issue here, but it resulted in 50 police shots being fired and a young groom who was about to be married. That very same day, it was in the early morning hours of the day that he was going to be married, is shot dead. And here is the fiancé of the victim.
First, I would start by not referring to them as officers. They were murdered. They are murderers. They are murderers. They're not officers. No one gives anybody the right to kill somebody.
We went through a lot of the details here, among which you had a bunch of police officers that were what they were doing is they had a unit that was part of an NYPD operation called Club Enforcement Initiative, and they were in a club in Queens, New York, known as Kahlua, Club Kahlua. And they were investigating the issue of underage prostitution there. And they launched this after a gruesome rape and murder in New York of an 18-year-old Jennifer Moore in early July, and it had gone on for some period of time. Now we are at the point, among some of the things, there were two different instances in which cops had reported that there were individuals involved in this having a gun. It turns out that they made a mistake. 50 shots were fired, and obviously investigation needs to go forward. What has come into play in an issue here is some of the comments of a New York City Councilman, Charles Barron, who joins us on our Newsmaker line right now. Councilman?
How you doing, Sean?
We appreciate you being on the program.
No problem.
I'm not sure how well the discussion will go.
It'll go very well.
Well, we'll try, because I think it's important, because I think there is a possibility, based on your comments, that horrible things could happen, and I think as a public official, you have a responsibility to do everything in your means to help the city do everything it can do to, A, get to the truth, and B, to heal. Do we at least agree on that?
Absolutely, and that's why I make comments like that, because I've been down this road at least 50 times in the last 30, 40 years, and every time we march, we protest, we sit, we write letters, we speak very, very decently, it doesn't stop the killing, Sean. So what I try to do is to give a warning to the city, certainly not to incite anything. That's why nothing I have ever said, even the slap remark, Sean, has never led to a person slapping anybody.
Well, we'll get to the slap.
Let me finish. It has never led to a person slapping anybody.
Well, for those that don't know, if you're going to bring up the slap remark, we got to remind people what you're talking about here. You said some days I get so frustrated I want to go up to the closest white person and say, you can't understand this, it's a black thing, and then slap them just for my mental health. You made that comment.
It's popularly known.
Did you ever apologize for that?
I have no apologies in my body for that or any other remarks I make.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here trying to explain to someone who has no clue about black life or why we make these remarks. But anyway, not that I'm going to make any progress today.
No, but the difference between you and I've never talked about slapping anybody. You're the one who made the racist statement. You want to go up to the closest white person, slap them for your mental health. I didn't say that. You said that. The
bottom line is that the police cold-bloodedly killed these youngsters with no guns found. 50 bullets were fired. You cannot have reasonable fear and go around killing people.
Do you believe in the court system? Do you believe these police officers, and by the way, there were police officers of multiple races here. Yes. It was not a racial issue, but because you had African American officers, Hispanic officers, white officers, and others.
Always a racial issue in America.
Hang on a second.
Always a racial issue in America.
So the cops were not. It was not a.
Condoleezza Rice.
It was not a case of just white police officers on African Americans. So there were multiple races here. I want to ask you about your statement. You there?
Not more than anybody.
Now, let me ask you.
He reloaded his gun and shot twice, the white cop.
Yeah, but do you believe? Let me
ask you something.
No, not until I finish my questioning, then I'll let you ask anything you want. Do you believe that these police officers deserve their day in court?
These police officers will get their day in court. They deserve their day in court.
Then why
get their day in court.
Wait a minute. Here's my question. Then why are you, as a public official, going out there and stating they're guilty of a crime.
Elementary school questions, and you're out the whole 10 minutes.
Excuse me. Why are you then, as a public official, irresponsibly convicting them in the court of public opinion without a full investigation or having them have their say in court?
It's the same reason why you are exonerating them. And
no, I'm not.
That they thought he had a gun when that hasn't been proven.
No, but that has actually been established and it's being reported everywhere. And I don't know what the ultimate outcome is here, but I do know this. I do know they deserve a fair hearing and a fair investigation and their say in court, and I'm not irresponsibly going out there and convicting them in the court of public opinion for my own aggrandizement as you are.
They will get more than a fair hearing. They're going to get away,
well,
like they always do.
Well,
no matter how the facts.
So no matter what happens, they're guilty, but they got away. That's your.
They are definitely guilty in my mind.
Guilty of what? Murder?
No, criminally negligent homicide,
and you
reckless endangerment.
And you want them in jail? Why do we even have juries? Why do we even have a court system? Why don't we just go to you, Councilman Barron, and you get to adjudicate these things? Why don't you punish them? How many years you want them in jail?
It was reckless, and we'll let the courts decide. But just like the mayor said, he thought it was excessive, and he is right on that issue.
The mayor was irresponsible to say that. Yes, he was.
You're the only fool out here thinking that this is all right.
Excuse me. You're a racist, and how dare you call me a fool, Councilman?
You're a foolish man,
John. Listen, Councilman, I'm not the guy out there as you are at a time when you're supposed to be a leader saying, I'm not asking my people to do anything passive anymore. You're the guy that said, don't ask us to ask our people to be peaceful. We're not the only ones that can bleed. Are you suggesting that you want people to attack the police now?
You are a protector of racists.
I am, sir, you're the racist. I'm asking you, are you asking people to fight back against the police? Is that a threat against the police when you say... Is that a threat against the police when you say we're not the only ones that can bleed?
You're trying to protect the killers for...
Excuse me. I'm not talking about Amadou Diallo. I'm asking you, when you said just this day, we're not the only ones that can bleed, are you threatening the police?
You are a protector of racists.
Sir, you're the racist. Now the question is, are you calling for violence? Are you trying to start a race war in New York City?
There's already one started. The police kill us, and that's a race war. They don't kill white people. They only kill blacks. We don't have any instances.
So the African-American officer, the Hispanic officer, every officer that was a minority in this is guilty of racism in the murder, in the death here.
Let me ask you something, Sean. Do you understand institutional racism?
Sir, are you saying that the black officer and the Hispanic officer are racist here?
Question.
They fired shots too. Are they racist?
Let me ask you this.
You can't answer that without having that justify your institutional mindset of racism. Were they racist? There was a black cop and a Hispanic cop. Are they racist? Yes or no?
Your style of interviewing...
There were two black cops, by the way.
Your style of interviewing is to not have any intellectual discourse.
You can't answer a straight question. Were the two black officers and the Hispanic officer that shot in this case racist?
Institutional racism exists in the police department, whether the shooter is black, Latino, or white. White communities are policed differently. That's where the racism lies.
Here's my next question. We are not the only ones that can bleed. Are you asking people to be violent against police officers?
Tell me where and when you've seen 3 white youth get shot at 50 times. Tell me when there was a white man going in his home like Amadou Diallo shot at. Tell me when a white man had a stick shoved up his rectum like Abner Louima. It doesn't happen to white people. That is the racism, whether a black person does it.
So the black officers were racist.
A lot of those cops...
So the African-American officers are racist, you're alleging here.
They're not black, they're blue, they're cops. And the racism that they're perpetuating is the institutional racism of the police department that sees black youth as thugs.
I got the next... Let me ask the next question. You said, don't blame me if there's an explosion in our community. We're not the only ones that can bleed.
Exactly.
What are you saying? Are you saying you want people to be violent?
No, not at all. I'm saying that unless we get justice...
What does that mean?
That means unless we get justice, don't blame me if this thing gets out of control and it gets...
Hang on a second. Unless you get the verdict that you predetermined should happen, what's going to happen?
Justice.
What is, if you don't get the verdict you say needs to come down, what are you saying you're going to have happen?
You're going to listen to my words, or you want to put words in my mouth?
No, you're inciting violence when you as a leader ought to be discouraging people from getting violent. You ought to not be rushing to judgment. You're an irresponsible racist leader. I just want to know what you mean so we can all prepare when you say, don't blame me if there's an explosion in our community.
You're ready, Sean.
I want to know, what does it mean?
10 more times.
What does it mean?
It means that if there is no justice, when you ask people to take the route of marching, demonstrating, appealing to the mayor, appealing to the commissioner, appealing to the court.
What does it mean?
If they do what they did with Amadou Diallo, change the venue, say it was reasonable fear, that they thought he had a gun, if you keep doing that, Sean, there's going to be an explosion.
And what's going to happen?
I don't know. Anything can happen when people are fed up because we got this racist system and racists like you that protect racists.
You're the one that wants to slap the closest white person you see saying you can't understand it's a black thing, and you want to slap white people for your mental health. Sir, we've established you're the racist, so let's move on. Now, I want to ask you a question here. Are you going to participate in the explosion, sir?
I am predicting. I'm a social forecaster. Just like you don't blame the weatherman for the storm,
you're an insider. You're an insider for your own political aggrandizement.
I don't need no political agenda to excite. My people are going to reelect me, especially because of you.
Yeah. Well, you're
my greatest supporter.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
When you talk about an explosion in our community, so what you're saying is that unless the verdict comes back the way you've already predetermined it should come back, unless it comes back that way, you're saying there's going to be, what, racial riots in New York? What's going to happen?
I'm saying...
You said an explosion.
Right. I'm saying that if you don't allow people to use the system in a legitimate way like we always do. The only thing I've ever participated in is sitting down with commissioners, with mayors, with sitting down with lawyers, with telling my people, oh, no, don't do that. Take it to the grand jury. No, don't do that. Take it to the U.S. attorney. No, don't do that. Maybe we can win a civil suit. And if you continue to not allow people to get any justice, there's going to be an explosion. Not because I want it, not because I participate in it, not because I will lead anything like that. It's because you're putting people up against the wall in a desperate measure, and I'm telling you,
let me let our audience,
the reason.
Let me let our audience be clear here. Let me tell you something, Councilman Barron. You are a racist. If there is any violence related to this, you will be partly responsible. You're saying that if you don't get the verdict you demand, you are threatening violence, and what you're doing is disgraceful. All those officers, African American, white, Hispanic, Asian officers, you've made their job tougher. They are in more jeopardy because you don't have the fairness in your heart to have an investigation. You don't have the fairness to let a trial go forward and evidence be presented because you're out there inciting this for your own grandeur. You're a pretty sick man, Councilman.
You are a pathetic protector of racists.
Sir, you're the racist. I hope and I pray. I hope and I pray people don't listen to you, and I hope and I pray that you are not successful in your inciting of this stuff.
Prayers get through because you're a protector of racists.
You're a broken record and you're a racist. Goodbye. Well, this is what's going on in here in New York City. Very, very frightening. And then we have the mayor meeting with Sharpton and this guy. Pretty sick. We'll continue.